read the introduction. The introduction was quite beautiful, and we'll get to that later. It makes so much sense. Then I got to page 1, and Steve Anderson had me by the balls of my feet. I was sucked in. Wow, this is going to be great. This is going to be amazing. I am yours. I am yours. It was 2 words. The opening sentence. Walt's dead. Walt's dead. This is a very important book. It's a history book. And I feel, the more you understand history, topics you love, whether it's movies or sports, anything, they become clearer and make more sense when you understand the history behind it. Steve, Walt is dead. How did we start it here? Anything you want.
Over the time of writing the book and outlining the book and trying to figure out what the story is I wanted to tell, what I knew I didn't want to do was make a book that was just all making of anecdotes and like Disney trivia from the time period. Excuse me. There are some of those things in the book, and I definitely have that in there. But to me, it was important to look at this as the evolution of the creative process at the Disney studios in the absence of Walt, and also in the absence of a really strong leadership that didn't come around until 84, 85 when Eisner and Katzberg came in. And I almost looked at the book as like a movie, and the protagonist of this story is the studio. There are co-protagonists, there are co-stars, all the people that worked at the studio during this time and throughout this era. But the movie is about the Disney studios and what is its character arc through this 20-year period. And there's this thing that we do in movies called, there's this structural element called the inciting incident. And it's usually around page 10, 15 in your script, around 15-minute mark in a movie if you're watching it. And it is exactly what it says, the inciting incident. It is an incident that incites. It is the incident that starts the story, that pushes it forward. And usually you want to get to that as soon as you can in your film. So in this book, I decided, you know what? The inciting incident in the life of the protagonist, the Disney studios, is the death of Walt Disney. That's the thing that changed everything and started the story that I wanted to tell. So I thought, how can I get to that as early as possible? Well, why don't we start with that? Why don't we start with those 2 words, Walt's dead? As a quote from Ollie Johnston in a story that was told to me by the late Bernie Mattinson when he found out that Walt was dead, from Ollie staggering into his office saying, "Walt's dead." I just thought, wow, what a compelling, first of all, a compelling story that Bernie told me, and then also what a I don't want to say great, because it's not it's a bit of a dark moment, but from a storytelling standpoint, to your point, Carrie, my hope was that it was going to just pull you right in. It was really going to say, okay, we're starting here at the moment where everything changes for the studio.
I cannot think. There's no way there could have been a better opening than that, because that's like ground zero of a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
How it just mushroom clouded into so many things. Like when I read it, I thought, should I cry?
Mhm.
Should I pay tribute? I recall where I was that day, December 15th, 1966. So that was one of the great cataclysmic moments in my life, like, Kennedy's assassination, is Robert Kennedy's assassination, John Lennon's being killed. But that was a cataclysmic moment that I was in shock. And I was just a little kid too. How about yourself? You probably weren't even alive when that happened.
No, a couple years before I was born. But
Neither were
yeah,
you.
No.
yeah, same here. And when I started reading it, immediately the draw was there, and I'm a person that's either a book pulls me in or it doesn't. And I would say more books don't pull me in than do pull me in. But this one was one of those ones where I picked it up, and next thing you know, an hour and something later, I'm 75 pages into it, and I'm like,
No.
"Oh yeah, this is really good. I'm enjoying this. I'm learning a ton. It's giving me insights and had me think through things that I hadn't thought before. Just that alone. Hey, the Disney company is not like a normal company. I mean, the person who the company's named after is probably one of the top most influential Americans of all time. He was the oracle. He was the guy who was the innovator. It's kind of like there's very few people like that. Steve Jobs was another person kind of like that. But yeah, what do you do then when all of a sudden this person that everyone's looking to for guidance and direction is just all of a sudden kind of quickly, right? It wasn't all that expected, but I think most is just that's it.
Yeah.
Now what? And it's just a great place for you to start the book there because I started going, yeah, what did that look like?
Mm.
All those people, like you said, the people that were very close friends with him, they were just stunned. I mean, one person I remember said he was like wept like a baby in his wife's arms when he found out because he looked up to this man so much. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was a great read. I'm a couple hundred pages into it, and it's been fantastic.
Thank you so much, Pete. I really appreciate that. Really appreciate that.
This is not a puff piece. This is not.
No,
Nor is it an indictment against Disney. It takes the reader into the room. Now we have segments we do on the show called I would have loved to have been in the room blank when a lot of things at Disney or other companies were decided. But yeah, I always say, those are indictments. Those are blasting people. But Steve uh, takes you into the room. He takes you into many rooms, and you are there, and you decide. You decide. So it's so balanced. But let's discuss the title, "The Lost Years." What was lost? What did Disney lose? What did me and Pete and every other Disney fan lose? Why did you feel the need to tell this story?
To me, what that means is, and it also answers the question why I wanted to write this book, is because this time period, this post-Walt period, like again, 66 to 86, for the most part, is leapfrogged over in the history books of Disney. Maybe they talk about But Knives and Broomsticks, or maybe they talk about The Rescuers, maybe they talk about Fox and the Hound, maybe they talk about Black Cauldron, didn't do so well, and that led to the renaissance of animation. Um, a few little blips, but otherwise, the full picture of what went on in this post-Walt era, I felt was untold. I felt that those stories that that I heard a lot of from my colleagues that were actually there during that time period that are fascinating were have been lost. And so I thought, hey, I think this is serving a really important purpose. This is um, spotlighting an era that has been forgotten, that has been ignored because it was not admittedly full of prosperity for the company. It was not full of success. There were bits of success here and there, but lots of struggles, lots of fear in a studio that was otherwise known for fearlessness. Lots of stasis in a studio founded by a man who one of his core principles was forward thinking, progress, looking ahead, that pioneering spirit of what's on the other side of that hill. Let's just keep going and let's keep searching and keep pushing. um, they really lost their way uh, because of this enormous hole that was left with the passing of Walt. And again, that led to an era that was maybe not the sexiest time, not the coolest time, not the most prosperous time. um, But those times also, I think, need to be examined. I think those, and back to to the title "In Between," Disney In Between. These in between times, these times between um, extremes, between prosperity, these times where we all experience these in our lives. We see it in culture all the time. Disney Studios experienced it in this 20-year period. There's these times where we're kind of wandering in the dark a bit. We're aimless. We have experienced a loss. We have something has disrupted uh, um, the status quo, and now we are trying to find the new status quo, trying to find the answers to questions we don't have the answers to. I actually think our world is a little bit in one of those periods right now where things are really, our world in so many ways is changing, and we don't know how it's going to end yet. We don't know how equilibrium is going to come back. Um, it's a real part of human experience, personally, culturally, societally. And so I think those times are worth examining as much as the times of great success, because we can learn so much from those in between times. How do we make it through that darkness? So I thought that was another reason why it was important to tell this story, because I see so many parallels between what was going on at the company, at the Disney Studios, and a lot of what's going on in our world right now.
It's very timely, I think, that this book's coming out, because as the Disney company in the mid to late 60s had that transition, we're seeing all kinds of Disney's transitioning right now too, right? And
Yeah.
trying to find their new place in this world, trying different things, and so getting a lot of pushback from people on trying some different things. And so it was really engaging, and I really appreciate that you kind of went down that path of uh, explaining how the parallels
Yeah,
mirror a lot of what's going on today.
So good.
yeah, Pete, what you just said, I want to get into that a bit in a couple minutes because
I jumped the gun already.
no,
You just set
Set the table,
absolutely
huh?
not that. But you bring up a very good point. So, Steve, what did we lose? We know what Disney lost. What did the fans, the people who love Disney, what did they lose? Or
think
did they just not know it? Did they just, Disney people, so many of them just love it. Oh, whatever they put out is great.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we lost a a Disney that um, had a fearlessness and a confidence and the courage to explore new things when we lost Walt. Again, so many of the things they struggled with, ironically, were the foundational components to what Walt was all about. But and the irony on top of that is the people that were in charge, particularly the late 60s and into the, most of the 70s, who were Walt's, you know, tried and true colleagues, many of them literally family members of Walt. They were trying so hard to honor who Walt was and what he did. In doing so, they lost sight of those core values of embracing new technology, of thinking outside the box, of exploring new ways to tell stories, um, and not being afraid to fail. And I find that really interesting. And it is interesting to think, what would some of those films be like?
Mm.
It would have had to have completely, I think, what I talk about in the book is, and basically I learned this from many of the interviews I conducted, is that real change couldn't happen at Disney until people let go of Walt, because holding on to Walt, while I completely empathize with why they would want to do that, um, holding on to him so tightly was the thing that was calcifying the studio, the thing that was creating that status quo. They couldn't, they just couldn't shake things up because they were too afraid to tarnish that legacy. So I don't think real change. I don't it. I don't know how real change could have happened that so close to Walt's passing, because I think you would have had to have completely gotten a whole new group of people in just to kind of shake things up. I don't think that group. And again, I empathize with that. I put myself in that position. If I were in Ron Miller's shoes and Card Walker and all those producers that Walt had worked with, who were put in charge at the time, and the 9 old men, if I were any of those people who would work so closely with Walt, I would be terrified as well to be given the steering wheel of this car and said, drive this. I think it would be paralyzing. So I also have great empathy for that group of people, and I understand why they did it.
How can people get your book right
Yes,
now?
well,
Or how can they contribute to any fundraisers for it or get a copy early? When's it coming out?
yeah. So the book is called Disney In Between: The Lost Years, 1966 through 1986. That's the full title, and it is being published by the Old Mill Press. So you can go to theoldmillpress.com, and you'll see a little icon of Disney In Between. The book cover looks like this.
Okay.
For those of you that are watching, and just click on that, and you can pre-order. Although the pre-orders might not be available now, because the pre-orders are actually starting to ship within the next few weeks. But you can still order it there on the Old Mill Press, and you can also order it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Oh, wow. Okay,
And
great.
the official release date is September 10th. So it's coming up about a week, or excuse me, about a month or so.
Can you hold it up again one more time?
Yeah.
And can you turn it sideways now? See how thick it is? No, other way. That way now. Other way with the pages. So, okay, that's how much I had to read. Want everybody to see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's as
that's
big as my head. Not really.
Pete. Can you somehow put this all up on our YouTube
Oh
channel?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
How people could be one of the first. Well, we are out of time. Steve, can I impose upon you one more again to come back so we could get into this even further?
No imposition at all. I would love to. I'd love to.
That would be great.
Let's take a walk with Walt down to Disneyland. I can hear those Dapper Dans and the marching band. When nighttime falls on Main Street, there's magic, so they say. So come, take a walk with Walt round Main Street, USA. Play the blues now.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to the Haunted Mansion. There's no turning back now. Your cadaverous pallor betrays an aura of foreboding, almost as though you sense a disquieting metamorphosis. And consider this dismaying observation. This chamber has no windows and no doors, which offers you this chilling challenge to find a way out. Of course, there's always my way.